In Days Gone, the focus of the video game was surviving in a post-apocalyptic setting where people are trying to survive against those who were infected by a biologically modified virus, the methods of which and how they survived in trying to live their lives the best that they could in this post-apocalyptic collapsed world could vary. But an interesting aspect of transportation depicted in the game was the method of motorcycle use. But the speculative scenario is this: are motorcycles the best way of transportation after viral societal collapse, taking place just a few years after the viral outbreak that devastated human civilization? In the Pacific Northwest, Deacon St. John is trying to survive as well as find his wife of Sarah in the new world that emerged after the virus had destroyed it. From dialogue mentioned in the video game lore that players could learn about on speculations as well as theories from players, harder that most methods of transportation weren't necessarily viable with the freaks roaming across Oregon. While cars were still usable, it wasn't technically a good decision to move across the areas that the freaks and hordes were located in within convoys or related automobiles. Due to the Pacific Northwestern region, the environment actually made it much more effective to use motorcycles as a clear and dependable method of transportation. Mentioned multiple times throughout the playthrough in side stories as well as the main story itself, Deacon placed a great amount of importance upon his motorcycle, as other characters in the game also valued their bikes as it was something worth dying for or to even kill for. Due to the short time from when society partially collapsed to when the game's story takes place, parts for motorcycles were still relatively easy to obtain through bartering, labor, or other means of exchange. A survivor could easily have storage bags to carry various things for the rider upon the bike, as well as the bike being customized for visual appearances to display their allegiance to a said faction or organization in the post-societal collapse-based world. An interesting fact is that during Days Gone, a player could actually be riding their motorcycle and hit freaks while riding. The dependence with motorcycles was ever present within the game, as Deacon would ride from one location to another, and during the ride the petroleum within the bike's engine and storage tanks would naturally be used. The player would need to estimate how long they would need to travel between destinations before they needed to visit one of the many stations across the map to refuel the bike. Even if the player were to run out of the fuel for the motorcycle, then they'd have to literally walk it to a station to refill it, or walk it to a friendly location. Even as a last choice, abandon it and flee to a friendly location to have it later retrieved for a nominal fee. When Days Gone was released, the entire concept of survival in an affected world using motorcycles was considered a new concept. In such a scenario, survival would be mostly foot-based, with occasional vehicle transportation. However, due to the timeline presented in Days Gone, where initial infection resulted in the collapse of society to where the story of the game takes place in, transportation on technology is still relatively functional, so the use of motorcycles as vehicles to traverse long distances is very much possible and would actually be done in such a setting of the Pacific Northwestern United States and Canada. In a real-life situation, travel by bike would be somewhat easier or even quicker due to the ease of travel that the bike could provide. Automobiles are limited by roads or locations. Bikes could easily traverse through areas or across areas that cars couldn't or wouldn't be able to head through, head to, or head by. There were even realistic observations by critics and gamers that the concept of travel in Days Gone was not only sensible, but it would and could be implemented by survivors of such a viral collapse of society as we know it.